Today, we find out. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the studios of the Ram Cave in the home of the Camellias, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the May 15th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Okay, today's the day we find out. It is schedule release, and I'm looking at a little technical difficulty here. I can't see myself on the monitor. This happened a couple months ago, so if something comes up with the broadcast where you don't see me, let me know. But I think you folks can see me. I just can't see myself. So drop a question or two in there so I know everything's cool. And then it is 5 o'clock, and I don't expect a big crowd tonight because they are releasing the schedule, and all football fans are going to be watching the NFL Network. But if you want to do us a favor, as the Rams schedule gets revealed, start feeding them to me, and I'll upload it here, and we'll talk about it before the show is over. All right, Tim Burns, how about them Astros, huh? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Yeah, I heard about that, but was that a team cheat or was that an individual player cheating? Right? You got to cut some people some slack. Yeah, you're starting me off with a baseball question, Mr. Burns. Good for you. Okay, so we're going to be talking schedule throughout the show. When it starts getting posted, guys, let me know. I totally get team culture. Okay. I totally get where we're at right now with the schedule and people coming on. So drop in scheduled dates as it goes forward, and we'll talk about them before the show is over. I wanted to talk some basketball tonight. I thought Jokic was off the charts last night. And, of course, we're going to talk NFL. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk Netflix, Christmas, and then we're going to remember a couple players like Doug Smith and even Michael Brockers. All right, so here we go. Yesterday, I was on Twitter or Twix, whatever we want to call it, and so I was watching looking at Twitter, and there was this thing that Jonu is a Ram fan that's on Twix. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Brian Jonu, and he's a big Ram fan, and he reposted something that was silly, and he didn't even mention he wasn't supporting it. He thought it was silly, and so I commented on it, and it was this meme or this graphic that was comparing Stafford to Goff, and that they were closer in performance than most people thought. And I thought it was the stupidest thing, and I made a comment, and I just said, yeah, Stafford's won a Super Bowl. Goff's lost a Super Bowl. Stafford beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Goff has lost an NFC Championship game. Goff keeps playing behind the Detroit offensive line, and Stafford suffered the most catastrophic offensive line meltdown in the Super Bowl era. And I just thought it was really stupid. And I got a lot of amens, and a lot of people said, yeah, that's true. But then I was going to bed last night, and I just checked social media again, in case sometimes you're wondering. And I realized that graphic came from Colin Cowherd. It was on his show, and I ended up seeing it on his show where he was making a comparison because, he likes Goff, I guess, and he's justifying Goff's contract. And he says, the difference isn't that great. And he mentions how their numbers are all the same. And I thought, wow, that is really poor for somebody as talented as Cowherd is. And I was thinking, either it's just clickbait or he's just being extremely lazy. But clickbait will hurt your reputation, and Cowherd doesn't need to do that stuff. So I'm guessing it's that elitist disconnect that Cowherd now has. You hear it echo through some of the comments he makes. And I've shared it, and I continue to share it. He's the most talented guy behind a microphone in sports in America these days, as far as doing sports talk. He does sports talk. I don't get a man show with him. I get sports talk, thank God, right? So he's great. But I thought it was just intellectually, sports-wise, it was lazy what he shared comparing that, because it told me one thing, is that when he says Goff and Stafford are closer than you think, it only tells me that, you can talk about games, but that he doesn't really watch the game, because as anybody would know, watching Goff and Stafford play, there is no comparison. Goff couldn't carry Stafford's jockstrap, right? And I understand Coward has a lot to do, but the trade-off is, if he has a lot to do and can't come up with a good opinion, the trade-off is he has to respect yours. And again, that's what I always say about the KBM. Their opinion, more often than not, is no more valid than yours. And don't be railroaded into disagreeing with what your eyes are seeing because someone behind a microphone is telling you something different. And I was disappointed when I saw that. And because I thought it was the guy from CBS Sports that has Stafford ranked as the 15th best quarterback or the 16th best quarterback in the league. I thought it was that guy again. And then saw that it come out from Coward. I thought, okay, it's either clickbait or he just has a disdain for everybody else. He's just that elitism because he's moved so high up the ladder. Anyway, we know what Stafford is, and we know that Goff, God bless him, good quarterback. He's not even close. I see the questions piling up here, guys. Thank you so much. And the answers, Sorge, Steeler fan Rob is out there. I think DHP is there. Good to have you guys. I did a double check on the Aaron Donald contract situation. The Rams are paying to him. He's a 14% hit to the cap next year, so there really is no serious relief until 2026 on the Aaron Donald contract. But that's okay. Let's keep him right there because you never know, right? You never know if the dude might want to come back. Some of the news that was leaking out this morning, I saw there were no overseas games for the Rams. Hooray, hooray, hooray. In Brazil in September, it's the Packers-Eagles. In October, there's 3 consecutive games in England: Jets, Vikings, Jaguars, Bears, Patriots, Jaguars. And then, of course, in Germany, the Giants, Panthers are playing in November. Really happy the Rams are not playing any overseas games. I think they're disasters. Rams get the Jets. Rams get the Packers. Rams get the Eagles. Rams get the Patriots. They get these teams, and they get the Vikings too, and I'm happy about it. Let them go overseas. Let them be planning that trip. Let that distraction be there. Let the mileage and the fatigue come in. I think it's marvelous in terms of that. So the Rams are not playing any overseas games. Around the NFL and other places, we'll start in other places, and I got no words for Jokic last night. That guy was unbelievable. In fact, there are times you've seen Jordan play. I saw the replay of I was at church that day that Jordan scored 63. And, of course, I watched Magic score the 42-15-7. Any true Laker fan, if you want to know a true Laker fan, if they know what 42-15-7 is, then they're a true Laker fan. If they don't know 42-15-7, then I'd question their credentials as a Laker fan growing up. Because 42-15-7 is what Magic did without Kareem, starting at center in Game 6 of the NBA Finals in 1980 in Philadelphia. And as I remember that game so clearly, I was watching Jokic last night. And it wasn't an NBA Final, but this guy was playing some of the greatest basketball I've ever seen. It was just playing great basketball. And again, I had to lead with it around the NFL and other places because people were talking about Jokic. He's not pleasing to the eye. Fans don't like. You don't know basketball. And America has done such a great job through the highlight reel and ESPN highlights of dumbing down the mindset of basketball fans that they actually think the NBA is good basketball. And you got a guy like Jokic who is just dominating because he's so fundamentally sound. And we see that. And if the European player is more like Jokic, then let the American player just go away. That's why the European players are better. Because they play basketball there. They understand the game. Jokic was the one-handed rebound, the quick pivot, and the full length of the court pass. I think it was to Jamal Murray. It's like, for a touchdown almost, was just unbelievable. And I would encourage you, watch Jokic. I don't know if they're going to win another title or anything, but he is worth the watch. And there isn't too much in the NBA that's worth watching. Schedule releases today. We talked about it. Guys, thank you so much. You're piling up stuff here. I'll get to you here in the break in a second. NFL and Netflix struck a Christmas deal. Both Christmas Day games will be on that platform, Netflix. Thank goodness I have Netflix. The games will be broadcast in the competing areas, which means you get Chiefs, Steelers. So Steeler fan Rob, without Netflix, will be able to see his home team play. And then the Texans, Ravens. They sound like great games. I love Christmas Day because all of my family stuff is on Christmas Eve, and we just fat dog it all day on Christmas Day. We don't do anything, we don't go anywhere. We just don't do anything. So I got a free pass to watch 2 football games on Christmas Day with Netflix. But here's the interesting thing. 4 teams in the NFL, 2 games, 4 teams will be playing on Christmas Day this season, but it doesn't land on a Monday. It lands on a Wednesday. And that's going to be interesting, right? That you got Wednesday night games and the adjustment for all that, for everything that is taking place. I thought, wow, that is interesting that they're going to be playing on Wednesday. But it's Chiefs, Steelers, Texans, Ravens. Those should be good games. Looking at some other stuff here, the Bills have signed Marcus Valdez-Scantling. The guy keeps sticking around. Got 2 rings with the Chiefs, and now he's going to get a paycheck and some passes from Josh Allen. And the Texans cut former Georgia quarterback Jake Fromm. Does anyone remember the talk about Jake Fromm? Like, hey, this guy could be something. Yeah, he got cut. All right, final thing I wanted to add that I didn't add, last ad for basketball. LeBron James played 71 games this year. I give him full credit for that. He played 71 games because the previous years he played 55, 67, 45, 56, and 55, right? He played 71 games this year, and the Lakers had to go to the play-in to actually get in to the playoffs, right? They finished 7th, they finished 11th, they finished 8th, they finished 7th in the Western Conference, and they're not going anywhere. And I don't know why they're in love with James and their fans. I hear it from some of their fans, longtime fans that are really trashing the team. I dumped the Lakers a long time ago because I don't have time for the NBA. But I thought it was interesting is that did the Lakers always want to play for 7th place or a play-in spot? And they're giving him an AD so much. Blow this sucker up, empower a head coach. If Rob Pelinka is dancing with all this, then he's weak. He's like Fredo. You should take him freshwater fishing with Fredo Corleone. He's weak and stupid. Make a play for somebody else that is aggressive. So your coach and your GM will have authority and take away and take the lumps. I think Laker fans are loyal enough that they allow you to take your lumps and build this back into something, because right now it is mediocrity on roids. And I say that they need to move LeBron or hope that he opts out and then move AD and blow this sucker up. All right. I'm Joe Charosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kisser Law, Temple City Auto. I also write books. I've written 7 books. They're all on Amazon. 2 of them are high school football novels. My third football novel coming out this week. It's called Game Day in the Ram Cave. Not this week. Before the month was over, Game Day in the Ram Cave. And we're looking forward to that release. Thank you guys for the support through the books and through RamView. Our numbers have picked up in ways that we never thought possible. And this allows me to do my day job. I pastor a very small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene. And we have a Burbank Faith virtual channel right here on YouTube. And you can check us out there. Check us out at burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual on Facebook, and all across social media. So before we get to the Rams update, let's look at some of the questions. Tim Burns and I were joking about the Astros. I have an Astros hat I bought to aggravate Dodger fans. I'm not sure if I should put them on. Steeler fan Rob, I'm watching the schedule right now. I'll catch you later. I expect no less. Tim Burns, don't mess with Joker. His brothers come out of the seats to throw hands. Bad timing, Joe. Steeler fan Rob. Okay, DHP. Week 1, Rams at Detroit on Sunday night. So this is locked in, huh, Bill? It's locked in. We got the Rams at Detroit on Sunday night. You know what? I think that's a great game. And here's the thing we do know. With a season that is 17 games long, roughly the first 2 months of the season, as long as you stay in the land of the living, no one's going to remember. The Lions are going to be so pumped up for this game, right? They're going to be through the roof, pumped up for this game. Rams are going to be a better team. Hopefully they'll have a kicking thing worked out. They'll have better pass rush, stronger offensive line. It's not a giveaway. But even if the Rams were to lose that game, if indeed that first Sunday night is in Detroit, it's not going to affect the season unless you're one of those superficial Ram fans that can't watch a game with all in and has to have all your buddies around you or be in a sports bar and just take on the mentality of the KBM. I say that. Maybe you guys watch some games in a sports bar, but we know the mentality, right? If the Rams somehow lose 30-14 on Sunday night, what is that, September 8th, we know it's going to be, McSnead blew it. It's going to be Stafford's too old. You're going to hear all those things. You hear it all the time. Some of the weakest fans on the planet are Rams fans, but I like that game early. Week 2, according to Bill here, is Arizona. Is that at home? I chalk that up as a win. Arizona's coming. I don't think those are give me games anymore, but we got a good grip on Arizona, and they have Kyler Murray at quarterback. As long as Kyler Murray is quarterbacking the opposing team, that's good luck for your team. I'm just not caught up in Kyler Murray. Tim Burns, even I won't put Goff above Stafford until he wins a ring. There you go, Mr. Burns. 49ers early at SoFi. Okay, we had them early last year. Thank you, Bill. And we'll get them early again. That's good. I have no problem with that. Pick those guys off early, but even before they start getting banged up. 49ers are old, and I think this is a different Rams team. I think that stretch of losses that Carson Wentz and Tyler Johnson put an end to at the end of last season, I don't think that's going to return anytime soon. I think these teams will trade wins and losses. Let's see. Tim Burns, Goff runs off a couple Super Bowl wins, then we can talk this talk. Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely, but yeah, I guess we could. But you just see in their play, you just see a guy that has command in Stafford. Anyway, I become a Stafford fanboy. Lions week 1, ouch, Mr. Burns. Okay, we talked about that. Bill, this isn't Bill, AMS. Okay, AMS is Bill. DHP, you're different. I'm sorry. AMS, you're Bill. I'm sorry. It seems like the NFL always gives us a difficult schedule out of the gate. Last year's schedule was brutal from the get-go and stuff. So, yeah, overall it is a difficult schedule, but all those difficult games, I think, are at home. Jets in New England are on the road. Chicago is on the road. The Lions are on the road, but it's indoors. And if it's early in the season, it doesn't make any difference. Miami, where it could be really hot, is at home. We don't have to travel there. It depends on when they play. I'm looking at week 2. Okay, at Arizona, week 3, Frisco here. At Chicago, cool. You're getting Chicago early, and then Green Bay, week 5. Yeah, I didn't like the early bye. I heard people talking about the early bye, and I prefer a later bye, but okay. Yeah, thanks, Anna, Bill. Week 6 bye is terrible. Tim Powers, Stafford is a fierce competitor, fierce, tough competitor. Goff is simply a competitor. Yeah, I think it's a case where Stafford packs the equipment to do a little bit more than Goff does. Stafford could go off script. Stafford can improvise a little bit. Stafford could throw the no-look pass in a Super Bowl on the final drive with his team trailing, right? I don't know if that's in Goff's wheelhouse. Bill, NFL sold. I think this is what you do when you have no competition, right? If there was a legitimate competing league with the NFL, I think the NFL would view going to a streaming platform as suicide. Because if I'm a competing team like the original USFL, or you're going to be going back to the WFL, I'm going to say, hey, our games are on national TV and they're free, and here you go. But this is what the NFL does. Hip drop tackle. It can do these things because they know we're not going anywhere. And this is why I've argued this. This version of the NFL needs to have a real heavy crash and burn, or it needs to face some serious competition from somewhere, because they can do this kind of stuff. Now, I'm kind of fortunate. I do have Netflix, and I happen to have Peacock. Story, I'll tell you about how that works. But yeah, I do think it's kind of insulting to their fans. I really do. And I agree with you there, Bill. Let's see here. Manuel Correa, what is up? Not much, man. Tim Burns, week 7, Vegas. Week 8, Minnesota. Week 10, up in Seattle. Week 11, Miami. At New England, week 12. So that would probably be week 12 was what, late November, just as it starts to get cold. It looks like we'll probably play the Jets late then in December. The Rams had to go to the Giants on New Year's Eve this last year. So it's not necessarily guaranteed it's going to be blizzard conditions, but that is always a factor. There we go. DHP, I think it's an awful thing for Christmas Day games. In this economy, it feels unfair for some people to have to pay to watch a game. I personally can't afford Netflix, Hulu Prime, and Max. Yeah, no, I hear totally what you're saying, and again, that's the indifference the NFL corporately has for its fans. They know they own us and we're not going anywhere. And that's why we need a crash and burn to some degree. Someone needs to step up, another league needs to step up, or they need to have a Colin Kaepernick night type of moment or situation rise where people are just saying, hey, you know what? We're not watching this crap anymore. We're done. And they took a ratings hit with Kaepernick, whether you agree with it or not. That's not what we're debating. They took a ratings hit. And I do know some people that have not come back. They were done with it. And so yeah, they need competition, and they don't have any competition, so they can stick it to you. Tim Burns, sign and trade LeBron James, please. And I have Lakers tattoos and a Lakers man cave. I've seen the pictures of your man cave, man. You are a Laker fan. Isn't it LeBron's option to opt out at the end of June or something like that? I'm not sure. People would look at that as a calamity. I would look at it, if I was still a Laker fan, as a blessing. Not that he's bad. It's just that you're not going anywhere with him. And I do not like a player dictating to a coach. When you get a strong coach, do you think Magic dictated to Pat Riley? No, because you know why? Because he had Jerry West, Bill Sharman, and Jerry Buss lining up behind them, where it was like the inmates weren't going to run the asylum, right? Just something to think about there. Bill, game day in the Ram Cave. Go get it. There we go, my man, Bill. Thank you. Tim Burns, week 13 at the Saints. Week 14, the Bills. That's at home, so we're not going to Orchard Park there. Week 15, let's see. Week 16, Jets. 17, Arizona. 18, Seattle. Frisco, week 15. All right, so there's the schedule, and that's the fun part. That's the fun part of breaking down the schedule. We'll look at it. Some of those games are rough games, but they're at home, and the only aspect that I could add to that that's frustrating sometimes is the Rams have yet to really develop a home field advantage, right? We know. I think it's coming. I just think it takes time. They're paying the price of being gone for 20 years. And, I mean, there are young kids in here. They are diehard 49er fans. They are diehard Packer fans and Raider fans. And so it's going to take time for that whole thing to build back up. But this is an opportunity for them to do it. Tim Burns, I missed last RamView. Losing Ben Skoranek is preferred to a young stud. Yeah, we talked about that. I was driving to Arizona, Tim, when I heard the news. I got a couple of texts that the Rams had first released and then traded Skoranek, and my first thought was Jordan Whittington. That the Rams are really high on Jordan Whittington, and they want to give him every opportunity to not only make the roster, but hopefully maybe even be on the field a little bit. I like Benny Scow. I'm always going to be a fan. The clicks the Rams got out of a 7th-round pick, more than Bryson Hopkins, more than Jacob Harris, who were all drafted in front of him. And, he's a 7th round, 249, 251 overall, catches passes in the Super Bowl. He's playing fullback for you. He's blocking. He did make some big catches. He got on the field and played as a 7th-round pick as a rookie. I mean, that tells you what McVay thought of him. So, yeah, we got a lot of clicks. If you get that much out of a 7th-rounder every time, then good for you. Steve Ramirez, now it will be 50 years and counting for the Rams being on Thanksgiving. Oh, and you're mad about that, Steve. I am thrilled they're not playing on Thanksgiving because I just didn't want to I didn't want to be caught up because, yeah, I got people at my house on Thanksgiving. I actually work hard on Thanksgiving. So, that would have been really hard for me to get away from everybody and say, guys, sorry, I'm watching the Ram game. And, so sorry about that one. We do disagree on that one. Tim Burns, LeBron can opt out. It's his power. He went 7th, 10th, 11th, 7th, and 8th in the last Western Conferences. So can't stand GMLBJ. Yeah, it is what they are. And, it's not healthy at all. All right, let's keep rattling on here. Let's get to the other side. Guys, you have questions or thoughts, throw them at me. We'll get to them. A little bit different show today because of the schedule release and when we're on. I know it's going on right now. You saw the post on Twitter, and then I think some of the Rams sites had it. Michael Brockers officially retired. He didn't play this year. His last season was 22 with the Lions, and he played there in 21. I felt bad for that guy because he played all those rough years in St. Louis, and he was here. He was in Super Bowl 53, and then he just wasn't here for Super Bowl 56. And it's just the way the league works. But Brockers, I compared him to Mike Fanning, and when he was moved to the Lions, Brockers was a first-round pick, 14th overall out of LSU in 2012, played 9 seasons for the Rams. His game wasn't to sack quarterbacks, but he had 28 sacks. He only missed 6 games in his career. And if you notice a real turning point, as far as I remember, in that playoff game in 2017 against Atlanta, when he went out in the second half, that really hurt the Rams in terms of stopping the run. And so I always liked Michael Brockers, but he gets traded to Detroit, right? But it reminded me of Mike Fanning. Mike Fanning was a first-round pick in 1975 out of Notre Dame. Now, Fanning wasn't a star either. Neither did Michael Brockers become a star. They both played alongside stars, but they didn't become stars themselves. Fanning played 8 seasons with the Rams. He picked up 35 and a half sacks. He only missed 7 games. And then he was traded to Detroit for 1 year. And he finished up in Seattle with Chuck Knox again in 84, I think it was. And, neither one of those guys were great. But you know what? They were steady guys that were in the lineup every week. And they were first-round picks. And you wouldn't call them busts. You wouldn't call them all pros. But the Rams got a lot of clicks out of those guys. And so I always think of Michael Brockers. Now I think of Mike Fanning. The late Mike Fanning passed away a couple years ago. And so you wish the best for Michael Brockers. I was always a fan. Other Ram news, the Browns have cut former Rams kicker Lucas Havrisek. So, hey, there's an opportunity to bring him back to be a camp leg. Yeah, that's real popular. And then the 49ers have cut former Rams defensive end Ernest Brown IV. Ernest Brown IV was a 5th-round pick, 174 overall in 2021 out of Northwestern, and was always like, what's he going to be, right? What is he going to be, right? And you could never figure out what he was. Was he an edge guy? Was he a down guy? Finally, the Rams cut him loose late last year, and 49ers picked him up. And now recently they just put him back in the street. And that's an interesting one when you think of the 2021 draft class. Bryson Hopkins is gone. Jacob Harris is gone. Ernest Brown IV is gone. Bobby Brown is still there. Jake Funk is gone. And now Skoranik's gone. Yeah, so you're trying to think of who's still around. And, Ernest Jones and Tutu Atwell, Bobby Brown, those guys were key, and they're still here. Just wanted to throw that out there for you guys to think about. Let's get down to this day in Ram history. Not a whole lot. In fact, not on this day in Ram history, but tomorrow, May 16th, since we're not on the air, Rams signed an undrafted free agent center named Doug Smith. Tomorrow would be 46 years ago as an undrafted free agent, and he made that Rams team in 78. Kind of a backup for first couple years. His first years as a starter was 81, and he started mostly at guard and tackle that year. And then he became the Rams starting center in 1982, Doug Smith. Doug Smith was a 10-year starter, played in 6 Pro Bowls for the Rams, an undrafted free agent. Also, on that same day, the Rams signed Preston Dennard. And we know what Preston Dennard was for the Rams, going from 1979 forward until ultimately be traded for a 5th-round pick to Buffalo, and that 5th-round pick turned out to be Kevin Green. So those UDFAs, man, those UDFAs really do amount to something. Some smaller stuff here on this date. Tomorrow will be the anniversary of the Rams trading Bill Simpson to the Bills for a 6th-round pick, but trade goes through because Simpson fails his physical. He's out of football in 79. And then comes back, plays 3 seasons with the Bills, 80, 81, 82. I think he picks off 12 passes, really gives Chuck Knox really a great stretch there at the end of his career. And on May 16th, 2017, the Rams claimed Austin Blythe off waivers from Indianapolis. He had been a 7th-round pick of the Colts. Rams picked him up, and they got 3 years of starting work out of him, including a year as the starting center. Austin Blythe wasn't great, but again, a guy the Rams picked up for nothing that they got clicks out of. And then on this day 2 years ago, undrafted free agent, the Rams signed Jake Hummel. Not that was world-changing, but just something for us to acknowledge and recognize what was going on. Let's see. Let's see. Manuel CER, we need to shut up Sun God Amon-Ra. Okay. That kid's good, though. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he really is. When we saw him at USC, did you think he was that good when he was at USC? That's pretty fascinating stuff there. He was great in Detroit, and he got a lot of money. They paid a lot of money to their guys this year. Tim Burns, Brockers was the man. Yes, Brockers was the man. Thank you so much. Richard Ramos, your thoughts on the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight? I hope Tyson crushes him. I do. I don't know if I've ever watched a fight where I was rooting for Tyson, but I respect Jake Paul. They say of all the celebrity guys that became boxers, they say he's got real talent. But this is Mike Tyson. And I saw the clips of Tyson, working out. And it's like, dude, I don't know if you want to really mess with that, because Tyson's got a reason to go in that ring and protect his reputation, let alone a payday. I think he's got more at stake than Jake Paul. And I just got a feeling he's going to let Jake Paul feel all of it, right? Guess what? I got Netflix, so I guess I get to watch the fight, not to rub it in on anybody. Steve Ramirez, maybe the Rams can trade for Butker, the Chiefs kicker. Did something happen with him? Did he make a religious statement or something that got people ticked off? I saw a link on Twix, and I didn't click on it because I don't always click on links. And I heard he was in some hot water. Dano, hey, good, Dano. Good to hear from you. Should Rams re-sign linebacker Ernest Jones? In my opinion, yeah. I wish they would sign him. We know what the Rams think about off-ball linebackers. We also know you can win a Super Bowl with Troy Reeder playing off-ball linebacker for you. And they did. Is anything going to change? I wouldn't be surprised. Chris Shula, who's been with the Rams for since 2018, and he's been under 3 different coordinators. Wade Phillips, the kid from San Diego. Now he's slipping my mind. Brandon Staley, and then of course Raheem. That he's absorbed a lot. He is a Shula, and I imagine they'll still keep that appearance of the same Fangio look, but would they be tweaking it? And if they tweak it, does that do anything that makes the linebacker more valuable? I know I got some pushback when I said it before, but I think Ernest Jones is really talented, and I think you could utilize him in so many other different schemes and move him around a little bit. And I understand the pushback I got, but I like Ernest Jones a lot, and I think Ernest Jones is the kind of guy the Rams like. And it's just a question of, are we going to give that much money to that kind of a player at that position? It's like the Buccaneers. Antonio Wakefield is a great safety. I'm just not going to give him that money. I'm just not, right? The Rams won a Super Bowl with Eric Weddle, 2 years retired. Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, a 7th-round pick. That season, most of the year, the best safety was Jordan Fuller, and he was a 6th-round pick. You're going to give 20 rocks? How much did the Seahawks give to their safeties these last 3 seasons before moving off of them? Jamal Adams and the other one's now escaping my mind. But who I'm talking about. They gave so much money to their safety. Well, what did they get out of it, right? Who was the Chiefs' killer safety these last 2 years? I'm talking killer, right? So they're going to value the position, and I don't know if the Rams value that off-ball linebacker. And I like Ernest Jones. I think right now you're on the verge of getting the best years of Ernest Jones' career, right? He played when he was a rookie. He got some tutelage under Bobby Wagner. We saw some really good stuff last year. I hope we see some great stuff this year. And then somebody's going to sign him. And 2 out of the next 3 years, they're going to get the prime of his career. And of course, they're going to have to pay for it. But I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way. I'm fearful that he's going to go. I'm fearful he's going to go. Tim Burns, Paul may never live down losing his bowels when he looks over at the Mad Mike and his anger. So I'm not off on that. I don't know, Richard and Tim Burns. I'm not a big boxing guy. I'm not even a UFC guy, but it just seems like, man, you step into another guy's lane and they get kind of hot. I noticed that a few times at some of the places I've written at, is that if you step into somebody's lane, they get a little bit hot. And right now, Jake Paul is stepping into Mike Tyson's legacy. He's not going to let some actor or some celebrity, take him down. And there used to be the saying around here. There's a school called El Rancho down the 605 high school, and they're down the 605 freeway, and they're the El Rancho Dons. But there used to be a couple of board posters for those guys that would post on the message boards, and they'd end every statement they made. It says, "You haven't been hit till you've been hit by the ranch." And Jake Paul might have taken some hits, but I don't think he's been hit by Mike Tyson. He hasn't been hit till you've been hit by Mike Tyson. And what do they say about the punchers? George Foreman proved it. Ernie Shavers, the last thing to go is the punch. Legs go, everything else goes, but the punch is the last to go. I just think, man, after the way I saw, Tyson put out Zach Galifianakis in Hangover 1, I don't know if I'd want to mess with that guy. All right. Steve Ramirez, the KBM is mad at Butker after he made comments that a woman's life begins when she becomes a homemaker. Oh, okay. All right. That's what it is. All right. No problem there. Hey, I know what my mom wanted. After failing with three Munsons of a husbands, my mom just wanted to raise her kids. And I'm not no problem with a woman making career. I have no problem anything like that. What I have a problem with are some of the radicals that make women feel bad if that's what they want. And there's nothing more honorable or greater than raising your family and wanting that. And what I despise most is I don't care what career one has. Great, go for it. As long as you're not my play-by-play announcer. But I despise. I mean, literally despise people that make a woman feel bad for her biggest desires. She just wants to be a mom, right? So good for Butker. All right. Bill, did you see episode 1 of Behind the Grind? Love Puka and his mother scene. Oh, was that Behind the Grind? I'll have to click on that. I didn't see it. I didn't know. I saw the link to it. I didn't know it was Behind the Grind and stuff. Sometimes I'm a little jaded. I don't like things that are trying to gin my emotion up. One of the things I appreciated about the draft this year is I didn't see a lot of stories from the media or the KBM trying to get me to feel something, right? Like, he's playing for grandma's dog or something like that. There's always some story like that. And you got to have this, try to gin up this emotional attachment to these players. And I thought the draft was pretty good that way, is I didn't see too many of those stories this year. And so I saw the Puka thing, the link. I didn't click on it. If that's the Behind the Grind, then I will click on that. All right, let's see here. Tim Burns, law of diminishing returns happens even to Donald. Can't afford the best sometimes, and it's better to use the money on a better overall defense. I think we're kind of talking about the same thing there, Mr. Burns, because I think a few weeks ago when I talked about Donald retiring, I knew it was going to sound like heresy, but I want Donald to come back. I have nothing bad to say about Aaron Donald, but the truth is to spread out some of that money and some of that focus. Now you don't get any serious money back until 2026 on Donald, but to spread that out and bring in other pieces. Yeah. I again, it might be heresy, but I think the Rams defense is going to be better this year than last year. Sounds crazy, but it's just how I see it. Tim Burns, Paul is for real, but he has no shot at Tyson. I've heard people say that of all the celebrities that have turned into Bob, that he has legitimate talent. It's not Tony Danza or Johnny Morton type of thing or something, that he's legitimate, but this is Tyson. And I saw the workout stuff that Tyson looks like he's in shape, and Tyson's playing for a paycheck, but he's protecting his legacy. Can you imagine his legacy? It's one thing to let your legacy. I bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, but it's another thing to let it be. I got knocked out by some celebrity, and so that's how I throw it out there. Steve Ramirez, Tyson still looks scary. I got a chance to interview him. Wow, I didn't know that, Steve, at an NHRA event, and was scared to death I'd asked the wrong question. Okay, good for you, Steve. Man, I went to the bathroom next to Vin Scully. That's the biggest thrill in my career. But you interviewed Mike Tyson. Good for you. All right, Richard Ramos. I met Mike Tyson at a fight night at the Forum from a young kid. The dad was a photographer and had a pass. Tyson gave me an autograph of his hand, and I shook his hand before Buster. Oh, wow, Richard, you were there at Buster Douglas. What, February of '90? Wow, you met. Wow, good for you. I mean, you weren't in Tokyo, but I mean, I know because that fight was in Tokyo, right? But man, you were right there in the mix of it. Doggone. Tim Burns, media started weird story thing in the Olympics where it's all inspiring but nauseating. Totally agree. I am not into the Olympics. I need the Soviet bloc. I need the Warsaw Pact. I need the Red Army. I need them trying to screw Hank Iba and the 72 basketball team, and I need that energy. I need Lake Placid type of stuff for me to be interested in the Olympics, right? I am not interested in the Olympics. I'm just not at all. Maybe some of the hockey in the Winter Games, but when the Simone Biles girl said there was too much pressure put on her, and it's like, chick, no one would have known who you were if you weren't doing the commercials. and it was, she had to back out. It's like, no, you're fired. Go home. I'm not even going to give you a plane fare back. You go to the Olympics, you're going to perform, and I don't want to hear about the pressure. No one would even know who she was with all the advertising she took, and then to bail. Yeah, I'm not really into some of these athletes. I'm just not into these sports. Who's got time for it? And I'm not into the brotherhood of man and bringing us all together and all that crud the Olympics does. Yeah, I'm a little more jaded. I need a Soviet bloc. I need, the Warsaw Pact. I need that kind of stuff for me to be in the Olympics. So let's see here. Tim Burns, one last thing. Tyson wrestled tigers. Are you speaking of Hangover? Well, he's got a tiger, that's for sure. I'm glad it didn't eat him like Omar. Respect. Richard Ramos, Rams are for real this year. All around better team than last year. Very excited. I agree. And I think they're going to be, that was a tough schedule last year. It was a tough schedule. But I go back, think about it. I was surprised. I thought they would start 0-3 and then win in Indy. But they won opening day. I'm sitting here in the Ram Cave with Barker from MVS, and I'm just stunned. I'm going, when is Seattle going to wake up? And just got schooled by the Rams. And then going home to play Frisco until Kyren Williams let that ball bounce off his hands. The Rams were in that game. They could have beat Frisco week 2. They should have beat Cincinnati in week 3. There was no excuse for that. And again, I'll go back to it, Eric Jackson goes down. They put Zachary Thomas there at left tackle. And you saw it over and over again when Hendrickson was coming off the edge. They didn't give him any help. No one was chipping him. No tight end over there. The Rams could have won that game as well. They did win in Indy. They tried to give it away. They could have beat Philly. With a kicker, they should have beat Pittsburgh. I think the Dallas game, they were out from the get-go. Green Bay, if you had had a quarterback that day, they would have won. If they had Jimmy G at quarterback that day, they would have won in Green Bay. And then, of course, it took an overtime punt return to beat them in Baltimore. And that was last year's team that won 10 games. This year's team is better across the board, more talented, deeper, and those hard games are also at home. And I don't know, again, if it's the home field advantage as much as we're not having to fly to some of these places tired. And so I totally agree with you, Richard Ramos, totally, that this is a better Rams team than last year. Let's see. Biozio, can't wait for Thursday night versus Minnesota. Oh, is that? Okay, that's Thursday night game. Okay, good. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Kevin O'Connell comes back. Sean McVay should know him. Chris Shula should know him, what they're going to do. And they got J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. I hope McCarthy has a great career. But right now, those two quarterbacks don't scare me. Justin Jefferson does not scare me. And I know they're working out contract details. Yeah, I think Minnesota's good, but I don't think they're great. What a great matchup opportunity for the kid from Alabama, Dallas Turner and Jared Verse, right? Get a chance to see who does better in that situation there. Tim Burns, agree with Ramos. Overall better. Get a special team stud and we can be somebody. It's all, get that kicker, right? Get that kicker thing worked out. Richard Ramos, to clarify, I was at fight night at the Forum and it was Mexican lightweight championship. Okay, thank you, Richard. All right, no problem. Don't doubt you for a minute, my man. Biozia, Rams are home the whole month of October. All right. They gotta eat then, right? They gotta eat and build up on that. Steve Ramirez, is it me? But I still view a game versus the Vikings as a big game. 70s kid. No, I think it's for those of us that have gray hair, those of us that are old and were brought to tears by some of those games against the Vikings. Yours goes back to 69. Mine stretches to losing to them in Minnesota regular season 10-9, 73, losing them 14-10 in 74 in the NFC Championship game, and then the 76 title game, and then the Mud Bowl. So I got, 4? You've got 5, Steve. I'm sure a lot of guys here have the same feelings. The thing is, the Vikings lost a couple of things. One, they went through a stretch after the Grant Tarkington era, Purple People Eater era. But you know what they did? They decided they wanted to host Super Bowls instead of go to Super Bowls, and they went indoors. And I cannot believe there's nobody in that organization, nobody in that town. These are Minnesota people. They don't care if they're in the snow, but it's all for the corporate dollars, right? And again, I'm not upset at anyone making money. I'm super capitalist. But that was a huge advantage of having to go to Minnesota. Don't you remember? I can remember when the Rams would play the Vikings. Not only did you hate the Vikings, but you hated the fact that they were going to go play in that frigid temperature there at Metropolitan Stadium. And that was always the issue. As much as you talked about Alan Page or Carl Eller or Fran Tarkenton or Chuck Foreman or John Gilliam or Wally Hildenberg, all those things, you were talking about the weather. And the Vikings traded their souls, It would be foolish like Buffalo doing something like that. Detroit should have thought about that before they built the Ford Field. The Packers still have this advantage. The Bears have this advantage, and the Patriots have this advantage, and that you shouldn't trade that advantage. You get players that adapt to your situation. And so when the Vikings did that, I think some of their mystique and I hated the Vikings. I'm not a big Viking fan now, but my hatred for the Vikings as a kid growing up was as deep as it was for the Cowboys. But it kind of faded with the Vikings fading, and then just that allure of that aura of what they were, in the snow and all that kind of stuff. So no, I don't think it's just you, Steve. Manuel Correa, Verse and Fisk are going to give Goff happy feet. I hope so. That's a really good Detroit Lion offensive line. It's a really good line. But I think the Bams are spread out better across the board. We'll see what happens there. Manuel Correa, hated Fran Tarkenton. Get in line, pal. Hated Fran Tarkenton too. Hated Fran Tarkenton. Did I tell you I hated Fran Tarkenton? Couldn't stand Fran Tarkenton, it was just one of those guys that dink and dunk, and he was a field general. I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, but he just had a way, right? He just had a way, and drove me crazy. USA expat. I feel I am your longest Ram fan listening. Laugh out loud. Yeah, don't you go back to early 60s USA expat? Don't you go back to that era? I think you told me that. I had an off day today. My camera's not working, at least for me to see feedback. Then I was calling DHP. I was calling him Bill. Guys, I apologize for that. So all that stuff I was doing earlier, I apologize. Biozio. I'm an 80s kid. Heard about all the playoff nightmares for Minnesota versus my dad. That's kind of part of my book. It's a father telling his dad, telling his son about all the nightmares. You've probably heard him, Biozio, because I'm a 70s guy. I didn't pick up the Rams till 72. Steve Ramirez, the sports writer here, he goes back to 69, a little bit earlier. So like I said, I hear about Deacon Jones and Roman Gabriel and some of that stuff. It's legendary to me. It's almost mythical, but I lived through all that hell in the 70s, right? The false start along the line of scrimmage in 74 championship game, and the interception in Hildenberg getting that pick, and then Bobby Bryant and 76 and Knox not going for it, and Ron Jesse getting into the end zone, but them not calling it. And 76 was awful. And then 77, the Mud Bowl, doubly compounded because the NFL's stupid, dumb, ridiculous, archaic rules of blacking out a game that the Rams are playing at the Coliseum in 77. Chuck Knox's last game, Joe Namath's last game, Harold Jackson's last game with the Rams, Monty Jackson's last game with the Rams, and we have to listen to it on the radio. Dick Enberg's last game as the Rams announcer, and it just hurt, man. It just hurt really, really bad. I think some of the European Biozio might be more Frisco inflicted than some of the other stuff there, but yeah, those were hard moments sometimes. Steve Ramirez, even Merlin Olsen hated Fran Tarkenton. I did see a quote where Olsen said, trying to chase down Fran Tarkenton in the heat of the Coliseum, he says that was not fun. That's one of the things I heard Merlin Olsen say. Let's see here. Michael Negretti, Pastor, don't hate. We qualify our hatred. When I say I hated Fran Tarkenton, do I wish him well? Is he probably a good man? Yeah, he is. You know what I'm talking about, guys. You know what I'm talking about. Let's just keep it in perspective. We have teams we don't like. We have players we don't like because they hurt our team. But it's all in perspective. And if I was saying it from a pulpit, okay, we got a problem there. But I'm not saying it. We understand the realm we're in here. This is the box we're in. So you know what you're saying, Mike. I'll try to do better. USA expat, 13 days away from turning 68 years a Ram fan. Whoa. All right. So 68 years as a Ram fan. So, dude, you got in the 50s. You got in with Jaguar John, and you got in Van Brocklin's last run. You got there, and some of those old time stars were still there. So that means you got in. You got to see Pardee come in, Dick Bass. Wow, good for you. Good for you. USA expat, Fran Nightmare continued with Montana. I will say this, and I'm qualifying Mike Negretti here. I did hate Fran Tarkenton and Staubach and the Cowboys and the Vikings and all that. My level of vitriol and animosity and everything for the 49ers was never at a high level. There was a certain point I'm watching Joe Montana play quarterback, and it was like he was just so freaking good, right? He was an artist. And just watching him play, I never hated Montana. Is that going to disqualify me as a Ram fan? Sorry, you guys tell me what you think. Richard Ramos, I agree. Growing up, my dad always told me we hate Vikings and we hate Cowboys, and obviously the 49ers. Yeah, but when I grew up, the Rams had like a 10-game winning streak against we always beat the 49ers until Steve Nickemeyer hit a 54-yard field goal in 75 in the Coliseum, and that was their first win against the Rams in forever. Then in 76, they shut them out on a Monday night, which was blacked out, 16-0, and they really banged up James Harris. And it wasn't until after that brief gold rush stretch there with Monty Clark, they fell back to earth in 77, and the Plunkett thing went awry, and they traded for OJ. They had to get Bill Walsh in there to start straightening things out. Biozio, I fell in love with the Rams in 84. Do you remember the playoff game against the Giants in 84? Dwayne Crutchfield, they gave the ball to Crutchfield in one of the key plays there instead of Dickerson. Jeff Kemp was the quarterback. I had to work that day. That was the sick part. I was working at the supermarket that day, and I missed that game. And I didn't have the skill to know how to record a game on a VHS tape. Yeah, I admit it. I blew it. The Dieter Brock era. I'm sorry you had to suffer through Dieter Brock. My bad, man. Let's see. I grew up hating Joe Montana and Jerry Rice and everything San Francisco. As is your right. Okay. Have the Rams announced training camp location? I asked about that. I think it is at Loyola Marymount. I think it is. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is Loyola Marymount. My connection that's going to get me into those things kind of dried up, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to a Rams camp game or a practice this year. I'm hoping I can, but I think that's what it was. Biosah, I even stopped eating rice-a-roni. That's funny. USA expat, Montana dinking to Roger Craig was pure Fran, likely dinking to Ricky Young, Brett McClanahan, Chuck Foreman, Oscar Reed, Steve, Brett McClanahan, Marinero, Dave Osborne. Yeah, I know that was proof. Steve Ramirez, I was there, Joe. Yeah, I know you were, right? You're at the Mud Bowl, man. I can't imagine the tears that flowed. Richard Ramos, my dad told me back in the day we owned Frisco. They weren't even nothing. It's true, man. They're running out there and aging. Even when they were winning the division title in 70 through 72, the Rams were still beating them. And that was the thing that really clicked with me in late 72 is that the Rams were 6-1 going into the last game of the season, and the 49ers were 7-5-1. And if the Rams had won their last game and the 49ers had lost to the Vikings, both teams would have been 7-6-1, and that 1972 Ram team would have made the playoffs. And that's an interesting thing too, because could that have saved Tommy Prothro's job, and could that have stalled the Chuck Knox arrival? I get the feeling that Rosenblum was ready for a change and the team was ready for a change, but they could have backed into the playoffs in 72. Yeah, man, that's wild. And the 49ers were winning division titles for 3 straight years. Let's see here. Michael Negretti, Pastor, I know what you're meaning. You just hated what the players like Tarkington and Montana did to the team. I was just, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that to me. I don't want to turn anybody off, but believe it or not, I have had in conversations where I've said just in regular passing conversation, oh, that team sucks. People get offended. And it's like, come on, man, we're just people here, right? Thank you, Mike. I do appreciate that. Whoa, we've hit the 56-minute mark. And guys, thank you so much for clicking on and hanging out. Our numbers went up as the evening. Thank you, Mike. I enjoy your presence here, man. You keep keeping me honest. So I'm going to let you guys go here in a minute. Steve Ramirez posted a thing here. The 70-71 Rams lost 2 late home Monday Night Football games that cost them the playoffs. That 70 game, was that the Detroit Lion game? Was that the Detroit Lion game where they finished 9-4-1 instead of 10-3-1? Steve, I think that was the Detroit Lion game. Steeler fan Rob actually tells me about that game, and I think that's what kind of sealed George Allen's fate and such going forward. All right. Manuel Correa, Mike Negretti, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys being here. And I'm going to let you guys go. Steve, DHP, Bill, sorry I confused your names there, guys. Biozio, USA Expat, Tim Burns, all you guys, man. You blessed me. Thank you for being here. Even Steeler fan Rob in Missouri. Okay, guys, God bless. Take care. Hit like, hit share, tell your friends. Go Rams.